It's weird because, if you look at other societies that have even similar religions, they still treat death very differently. And I think that at the very least, at the smallest level, that's something I wanted to touch on to.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
Running on Empty is so much fun. I love a good dark
Thank you.
comedy, and this does exactly that. Like it's genuinely funny and heartfelt, but has that edge. Why did you want to tell this story?
Yeah, I think it can be a lifelong journey to figure out what your first film is going to be. And I think, you come to a point where you have to just narrow in on something. And so I think this sort of encapsulates, a lot of my views on life and death and society. And, I went to my grandfather's funeral when I was 10 years old, and, had the wake and all of that. And I just remember it being bizarre, like more bizarre than than running, um, because it's just that was my grandfather. That's not how I want to be remembered. That's not how I want to remember my loved one. So that kind of sparked it. And then some years ago, I came across this thing called it's called Extreme Funerals, and in my film, I call it Adventure Funerals. But they actually do funerals where they will put somebody on a motorcycle or in their car or whatever. And to me, I thought that's a lot more fun than just going and looking at somebody in a box who looks nothing like the person you knew. So that was really appealing. And so then I combined that with, well, who are filmmakers that I love and what are films that I love? And I've always been sort of left of center of things. So going back to like Five Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson, or After Hours, Martin Scorsese film from the 80s, to Punch Drunk Love, Night Shift,
Yeah.
all of these kind of, and also you want to figure out how do you weave important themes into something that's also fun and entertaining and doesn't beat the audience to death over the head with whatever themes you're trying to convey.
It's a delicate balancing act there for sure. And this those things. I, it's so interesting because the film talks about death as a part of life, but it's so awkward for us to discuss. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just our kind of society. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because, if you look at other societies that have even similar religions, they still treat death very differently. And I think that at the very least, at the smallest level, that's something I wanted to touch on to at least maybe not even open up a discussion, but open up somebody's mind to think, hey, why is it this way? Why, if we are a spiritual society or if we're a religious society or whatever, we still have this weird thing about death, that we don't want to talk about. And really, I think, life is a beautiful thing. The universe is beautiful. Nature is beautiful. This is all kind of meant to be the way it's supposed to be. And I think it would be great if we could come to, rather than it take most of my life to make a film like this to kind of be more okay with death. If we could just be a society that maybe one day we're more accepting or more understanding of it.
Funny, it's one of those things that, like, this is what I love about a dark comedy is that we can laugh about it, but it's hard to do that in real life. Like when it's grounded, in these real conversations, sometimes it's a difficult conversation, but and yet this film really taps into this idea of our mortality, but there's also something almost freeing about it. I feel like this character, the more we discuss it, the more the more freeing it can be. I was wondering if you think that's the case, and if so, why?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of an offset, something that wasn't purposeful at all from this film that I really kind of just realized in the last year after making it. Um, my smaller dose of fear, of death has kind of gone away. And, for whether it's my whatever purpose or my artist purpose or whatever, that for me on a personal level, that's how the film affected me. And I'm hoping it has maybe even just a small fraction of some kind of effect on an audience.
Well, having said that, Daniel, Would you want to know? Would you want your LDC?
At this point, I don't think so, but who knows? I mean, maybe if someone wants, maybe if it'll help me buy a house someday, and I need to get a mortgage, then I'll do that. But no, I think I'm good with the mystery of life for now.
It is interesting in that scene, that opening scene where he finds out the number and everything just sort of changes. It's like I think his girl is like 30 or 80, that some ridiculously high number. It's like 80
Yeah.
years, and his is 3 5, and oh, it didn't respect over the course of the film. Just having known that, and his relationship to, well, it's the anti rom com. You've described this as an anti rom com. In some ways, I think it's really just the way he ends his relationships.
Yeah, I just it's funny. And I think the overwhelming kind of hopefully connection it makes to everybody is these are all questions that we ask ourselves or think about, or what the death day. There have been some movies in the past that dealt with that, I think. And that was another thing. It wasn't meant to be like to beat you over the head with the whole death date and the scientific thing. It's more about the characters and the story and how they deal with it. And then like we're here talking right now, how would you deal with it? Would you want to know? And then that sparks another conversation about, why are we afraid of death, and what is death, and this and that and whatever. And yeah, if that's sort of my only job, I guess, as an artist is to try and put stuff out there that connects with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something like universal about this, because this is something, it's part of all of our lives. It just is, whether it's ourselves or people we care about. It's just part of it. But it's genuinely funny, though. I don't want to make it sound too morose, because it is this, but it is a genuinely funny film
Thank you.
along the way. Daniel, what do you hope people take away from Running on Empty?
Um, I guess a couple things. I really like to see audiences kind of become more accustomed to, I think, something that we're all looking for and we all want, and that's lacking in cinema right now, are character driven, story based films that, aren't that
Hmm.
don't get lost in the weeds with development or plots or B plots or C plots or this or that or whatever, where, it's really about the journey of the audience and the characters in the film, regardless of how
Yeah.
ridiculous it might be. A good example is pretty much every Charlie Kaufman film. I mean, he's an absolutely brilliant writer. But that's what I love about filmmakers like that, is like they tell these sort of deep stories, or at least spark these big discussions based on art and entertainment, versus having to show you everything and explain everything. And also, I think I tried to give more credit to audiences, which I don't feel enough films do nowadays, where we have to, over explain and beat our concepts into their head just to make sure it makes sense in the script and all of this stuff, when really we're just storytellers and we're telling stories.
I appreciate it, Daniel, much for your time. I really
Thank you so much,
appreciate the
Steve.
chance to chat. The film is so much fun.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank
Like you never